The MGM Grand, December 8th, 2012. A right hook from Juan Manuel Marquez sends Manny Pacquiao crashing face first to the canvas. The arena falls silent. What happened next would change everything. Not just for Pacquiao, but for the entire sport of boxing. The hands that once threw lightning-fast combinations now sometimes shake when holding a microphone. The fighter who moved through 8 weight divisions shows subtle signs of the toll it took. This isn't just another story about a boxing champion. It's about what happens when you push the human body beyond its limits. Behind the victories and accolades lies a darker truth about the price of greatness. From career-threatening injuries kept secret from the public to massive gambling debts that nearly bankrupted him. This is the story of what really happened to boxing's only 8-division world champion. Today, Manny Pacquiao's mansion in General Santos City stands as a testament to his success. But just blocks away, children still sell bread on the same streets where he once struggled to survive. What most people don't understand, says his childhood friend Baboy Fernandez, is that hunger doesn't just motivate you, it changes you forever. Manny Pacquiao was born on December 17, 1978 in Cabawe, a remote town in the Bukidnon province of the Philippines. Now, life there wasn't just hard, it was absolutely brutal. His parents were farmers with little to their name, and Manny grew up knowing what it felt like to go days with barely any food. Picture a young boy, barefoot, walking several kilometers under the scorching sun just to fetch water or sell snacks to earn a few pesos. This wasn't the stuff of a feel-good childhood montage. It was survival, plain and simple. Manny's mother, Dionysia, was the backbone of the family. She worked tirelessly to feed Manny and his siblings, often sacrificing her own needs. But things took a sharp turn when Manny's parents separated after his father's infidelity.
How do you think that impacted you growing up, not having your dad around?
Actually, I'm not blaming my dad. It's good for us that our dad is not around because we're not relying on our dad. We will learn how to work hard because we're all boys, so to make money, in a nice way, and that's how we get strong.
It was a devastating blow, leaving Dionysia to raise the family on her own. The breakup didn't just tear the family apart emotionally, it plunged them further into poverty. The thing about extreme poverty, Dr. James Thompson, sports psychologist, explains, is that it rewires your brain. The constant stress, the survival instinct, it creates a fighter long before they ever step in the ring. In Manny's case, this early hardship would later enable him to push his body beyond normal human limits, for better or worse.
We don't have our own house, we don't have land, we don't have even food. We have to work every day to make money to buy food for the family. So even we're too young to work, but we have to work, like selling donuts, selling pandesal, selling flowers, just to earn money to buy food.
As a kid, Manny was scrappy and resourceful. He sold everything from bread to cigarettes on the streets of General Santos City, hustling from sunrise to sunset. But his love for sports, especially boxing, gave him a small escape from the harsh realities of life. He would watch local fights on a neighbor's black and white TV, mesmerized by the speed and power of the boxers. When he wasn't selling goods or running errands, Manny was shadowboxing or sparring with friends using makeshift gloves. His first boxing ring was often a dirt patch in the middle of his neighborhood. Nobody could have guessed that this skinny kid with oversized dreams would one day conquer the world. But first, he had to make the toughest decision of his young life, one that would test everything his mother had taught him about survival. At just 14 years old, Manny made a decision that would change everything. He left home to chase his dream. He didn't leave because he wanted to. He left because he had to. His family simply couldn't support him anymore, and he saw boxing as his way out. He hopped on a ship to Manila, traveling for days with nothing but a small bag of clothes and a heart full of determination. Manny arrived in the capital with no money, no connections, and no real plan. He found work as a construction laborer and often slept on the streets or in the gym where he trained. The conditions were harsh, but Manny's resolve was unshakable. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for his family. Every punch he threw was fueled by a hunger, literally and figuratively, that couldn't be ignored. Manny's professional debut came in 1995 when he was just 16 years old. His first fight was in a dingy venue with a crowd of locals shouting and betting small amounts of money. Manny weighed so little at the time that he had to put weights in his pockets to qualify for the minimum weight class. Despite his small stature, Manny's speed and power were undeniable. He fought with the ferocity of someone who knew losing wasn't an option. His first opponent, Edmund Ignacio, didn't stand a chance. Manny won by unanimous decision, earning just 100 pesos.
The story, the true story in why I get into boxing, the true story is that, like, because I want to help my family, I want to help my mother, and there's a boxing show in our place. We heard that there's a prize. Even you lose, there's a prize. There's a money. So we decided with my friends that, okay, we put our name there until we can fight. Because even we lose, we earn money. So then that's the story. We fight and I won. So I made $2. $2. Yeah.
The early years of his career were a grind. Manny fought in small towns and gymnasiums, sometimes taking fights on just a few days' notice. He wasn't fighting for glory or titles, yet he was fighting to survive. Dr. Margaret Goodman, who would later oversee many of Pacquiao's fights, notes, "What's remarkable about Manny's early career was how he was already pushing his body to extremes. At 16, he was cutting weight in ways that would make most medical professionals cringe. We didn't know then, but this was the beginning of a pattern that would define and potentially endanger his career. Each win brought him a step closer to stability, but the road was anything but easy. Then came the moment that would transform him from a hungry street fighter into a world-class boxer. Manny's big break came in 1998 when he fought Chatchai Sasakul in Thailand for the WBC flyweight title. At the time, Sasakul was a seasoned champion, while Manny was a relatively unknown underdog. But Manny wasn't intimidated. He trained relentlessly, knowing this was his chance to prove himself on a global stage. The fight was brutal, with both fighters trading punches in a grueling back-and-forth battle. But in the 8th round, Manny delivered a thunderous left hook that sent Sasakul crashing to the canvas. Just like that, Manny Pacquiao became a world champion at the age of 19. This was a life-changing moment. For the first time, Manny could provide for his family in a meaningful way. He bought his mother a house and started sending money back to General Santos City. But Manny didn't stop there. He knew he had the potential to achieve even greater things. It was during this period that Manny formed the most important partnership of his career, meeting trainer Freddie Roach at the Wildcard Boxing Club in Los Angeles. Roach, who was battling Parkinson's disease, saw something special in the raw, explosive Filipino fighter. When he first walked into my gym, Roach would later recall, he threw combinations I'd never seen before. They weren't textbook, but they were devastating. What wasn't public knowledge then was the physical toll of these rapid weight gains. Justin Fortune, his strength and conditioning coach, would later reveal, in those early days with Freddie, Manny would sometimes gain 15 pounds in a week, lose it in days. His metabolism was like nothing I'd ever seen. But that kind of fluctuation, it takes a toll you don't see until years later. The Pacquiao-Roach partnership would become legendary in boxing circles. Together, they refined Manny's explosive style without taming it, adding technical precision to his natural aggression. Roach became more than a trainer. He was a father figure, strategist, and friend. Their bond went beyond boxing. They shared a deep understanding that came from both knowing what it meant to fight against the odds. In 2001, Manny got the call that would catapult him into international stardom. He was offered a fight against Lelo Ledwaba for the IBF Super Bantamweight title. The catch? He was a last-minute replacement with just 2 weeks to prepare. Most fighters would have declined, but Manny jumped at the chance. From the opening bell, it was clear that Ledwaba wasn't ready for Manny's relentless style. Manny overwhelmed him with blistering combinations, eventually stopping him in the 6th round. The victory was a turning point and marked Manny's arrival on the global stage. Manny's rise wasn't just about winning fights, it was about the way he won. Over the next decade, he would face and defeat some of the biggest names in boxing: Marco Antonio Barrera, Eric Morales, Ricky Hatton, Miguel Cotto, and of course, Juan Manuel Marquez. Each fight was a spectacle. Take the Barrera fight in 2003, for example. Manny was the underdog who was seen as a stepping stone for Barrera, but Manny dismantled him, forcing Barrera's corner to throw in the towel. In the Philippines, these victories meant more than just boxing. Manny had become a cultural phenomenon. His fights would bring the entire country to a standstill. Streets would empty, businesses would close, and people would gather around TVs to cheer for their hero. For those few hours, it didn't matter if you were rich or poor, young or old, everyone was united in their support for Manny. The Hatton fight in 2009 was another career-defining moment. Manny ended it with a second-round knockout so devastating that Hatton lay unconscious for several minutes. Fans still talk about that punch as one of the most brutal knockouts in boxing history. When we talk about Manny Pacquiao's greatest fights, we can't skip his epic rivalry with Juan Manuel Marquez. These two warriors faced each other 4 times, and every bout was unforgettable. Their styles were like fire and ice. Manny's aggressive, high-volume offense versus Marquez's precise counterpunching. Each fight told a different story, and the rivalry became one of the greatest in boxing history. Their first fight in 2004 was an instant classic. Manny knocked Marquez down 3 times in the first round. It looked like the fight was going to be a quick and easy win for Pacquiao, but Marquez, showing unbelievable grit, got back up and fought his way into the fight. By the end of 12 rounds, the judges couldn't pick a winner. It was declared a draw. Fans were left clamoring for a rematch. The second fight in 2008 was razor close again. This time, Manny edged out a split decision victory thanks in part to a 3rd-round knockdown. Marquez and his fans cried foul, believing that he had done enough to win. The debate only added to the drama of their rivalry. Fast forward to 2011, and their 3rd fight ended in yet another close decision, with Manny winning again. But Marquez wasn't satisfied. He wanted one more shot, and in 2012, he finally got his revenge. Their 4th and final fight ended with Marquez landing a thunderous right hand in the 6th round that knocked Manny out cold. It was a devastating loss for Pacquiao, and it left fans stunned. But even in defeat, Manny handled himself with grace, congratulating Marquez and showing the sportsmanship that endeared him to millions. This rivalry wasn't just about wins and losses. It was about 2 fighters pushing each other to their absolute limits. And even though Marquez got the final victory, both men emerged as legends. What few people know is that Marquez's knockout did more than just end a rivalry. It fundamentally rewired Pacquiao as a fighter. In the immediate aftermath, Manny couldn't sleep for weeks, replaying the moment in his mind. His longtime trainer, Freddie Roach, revealed that Manny would wake up in the middle of the night, throwing phantom punches, trying to figure out what went wrong. The physical recovery was quick, but the psychological impact ran deep. For the first time in his career, Manny became hesitant about his signature move, the aggressive lunging left hand. The very technique that had made him famous had also left him vulnerable to Marquez's perfect counter. His training team noticed the change. Manny started fighting more cautiously, more calculated. The wild, relentless Pacquiao, who would throw six-punch combinations, was gone. This transformation became evident in his next fights. Against Brandon Rios and Chris Algieri, Manny won decisively, but didn't show his trademark killer instinct. His team privately worried that the Marquez knockout had taken something from him that he couldn't get back. This mental shift would prove crucial in the lead-up to the Mayweather fight. After Marquez revealed one of his sparring partners who wished to remain anonymous, Manny would pull back right after attacking. Before, he would keep coming forward no matter what it was like. He had this new fear of getting caught, something we had never seen in him before. The knockout also affected his personal life in unexpected ways. His wife, Jin Key, considered asking him to retire, worried about the long-term effects of such a devastating blow. The incident strengthened Manny's religious conviction. He saw his survival of the knockout as divine intervention, further fueling his spiritual transformation. While the Marquez knockout had changed Pacquiao forever, another challenge loomed on the horizon, one that had been building for years. The boxing world was about to witness its most anticipated showdown in history. No discussion about Manny Pacquiao's peak would be complete without diving into the long, drawn-out saga of his fight with Floyd Mayweather Jr. For years, this was the fight that everyone wanted to see. On one side, you had Pacquiao, the relentless offensive machine. On the other, you had Mayweather, the defensive genius and master tactician. It was the ultimate clash of styles, and fans were salivating at the prospect. But the fight took forever to materialize. Negotiations dragged on for years, with both sides blaming each other for the delays. There were issues with drug testing, purse splits, and promotional egos. Meanwhile, both fighters continued racking up wins, and the anticipation only grew. Finally, in 2015, the fight happened. It was billed as the fight of the century, and the hype was off the charts. The build-up included everything from trash talk to extravagant press conferences. The fight itself? Well, let's just say it didn't quite live up to the hype. Mayweather used his superior defense and ring IQ to outbox Pacquiao, winning a unanimous decision. For Manny, it wasn't just the loss that stung, it was the controversy. After the fight, he revealed that he had been dealing with a shoulder injury during training camp, which limited his performance. Critics called it an excuse, while fans debated whether a healthy Pacquiao could have beaten Mayweather.
Greatest boxer maybe in my generation, but not the best fighter. I would say the best, brawler, boxer type fighter, Manny Pacquiao.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Destroyed.
Manny Pacquiao.
He fucking just
won
destroyed.
world titles in 8 different weight classes. Who the fuck does that?
And the way he did it, like
Yeah.
that Cotto, I'm a huge fan of Cotto. I love this school. And the way that he beat Cotto, I didn't think nobody could ever do that to him.
And his legs are like tree trunks.
And the
It's
hand
crazy.
speed, the power.
Speed, everything.
I just always wish that the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight would have took place many, many years before than when it did.
Well, it also took place and Manny went into the fight with a fucked up shoulder. I mean, he knew his shoulder was fucked before that fight and he just wanted that money and just let's see what happens.
Regardless of the outcome, the fight cemented both men's legacies. Mayweather retired undefeated, while Manny continued fighting and proving that his story was far from over. Manny Pacquiao's rise to fame wasn't just about what he did in the ring, it was about who he became outside of it. By the mid-2000s, Manny wasn't just a boxer, he was a national hero in the Philippines and a global icon. His every move was watched, analyzed, and celebrated. But with fame came responsibility, and Manny embraced it wholeheartedly. In 2010, while still an active boxer, Manny entered politics. He ran for a congressional seat in the Philippine province of Sarangani.
Being a public servant, this is a serious job, not like boxing or entertaining people. But this this politics is, issues, it's a serious, taking care a problem of those people who needing your help. And I'm serious to serve them and to help them to change the politics in the Philippines,
At the same time, Manny underwent a personal transformation. After years of indulging in the perks of fame, gambling, drinking, and late-night partying, he experienced a spiritual awakening. He became a devout Christian, giving up his vices and dedicating himself to his faith. He often spoke about how religion saved his marriage and helped him become a better father to his 5 children. But what really triggered this transformation? Well, the truth emerged years later. In late 2011, after a night of heavy gambling in Manila's casinos, Manny found himself in his hotel room, millions in debt and at his lowest point. According to close friends, he had lost over $10 million in a single month at the tables. His marriage was hanging by a thread, with Jin Key having already consulted divorce lawyers. A former casino manager in Manila, speaking anonymously, revealed there were nights when Manny would lose more than $2 million in a single session. But what was scary wasn't the amount, it was how it didn't seem to faze him. It was like he was fighting the odds themselves. That night, Manny claims he had a profound dream, or as he describes it, a divine visitation. He dreamt he was in a forest where a bright light appeared and he heard a voice asking, "My child, why are you going astray?" When he woke up, he was in tears. His bodyguard would later reveal that he found Manny on his knees, crying and praying for hours. The transformation wasn't just spiritual, it was financial and personal. Unknown to the public at the time, Manny had accumulated gambling debts that threatened to bankrupt him despite his massive boxing earnings. He had been spending millions per month on cockfighting alone. The casinos had given him credit lines that would have crippled most Fortune 500 executives. His business manager revealed years later that Manny was supporting over 1,000 people at one point. Friends, family, and hangers-on who had become dependent on his generosity. His monthly expenses looked more like a small company's budget than a personal account. The spiritual awakening forced him to make hard decisions, cutting off enablers, closing down his nightclub investments, and redistributing his wealth toward charitable causes instead of gambling. But perhaps the most dramatic change was in his marriage. Jin Key had reached her breaking point with his infidelity and gambling. She had already packed her bags and was ready to leave with their children. The transformation didn't just save Manny's soul, it saved his family. Years later, Jin Key would reveal in a tearful interview that she had already signed initial divorce papers before Manny's dramatic change. Through the Manny Pacquiao Foundation, his transformation from spendthrift to philanthropist became complete. The foundation has provided scholarships, medical assistance, and disaster relief to thousands of Filipinos. His most personal initiative remains his feeding programs, where he often serves meals himself to impoverished communities. A hands-on approach from someone who never forgot what it meant to go hungry. By 2019, Manny was in his 40s, an age when most boxers are long retired. But Manny wasn't just still fighting, he was still winning. That year, he took on Keith Thurman, an undefeated champion 10 years younger. Many thought Manny was biting off more than he could chew. Thurman even trash talked, saying that he would retire Manny for good. But when fight night came, Manny reminded the world why he was called Pacman. He knocked Thurman down in the first round with a vintage left hook and controlled much of the fight with his speed and precision. By the end, Manny had won a split decision, becoming the oldest welterweight champion in history. Now, behind the scenes, the victory came at a cost. His personal physician, Dr. Ramos, had advised against taking the fight. His pre-fight medical showed concerning signs of accumulated damage, but Manny had this extraordinary ability to push through physical limitations that would stop most athletes. The victory wasn't just about adding another belt to his collection. It was about proving that age is just a number. Fans celebrated the win as a testament to Manny's unparalleled work ethic and fighting spirit. Manny's final fight came in 2021 against Yordenis Ugas. Originally scheduled to fight Errol Spence Jr., Manny had to adjust to a last-minute replacement. The fight was tough, and Manny struggled to find his rhythm against Ugas's counterpunching style. After 12 rounds, Manny lost by unanimous decision. It was a bittersweet end to his legendary career.
I did my best tonight, but my best wasn't good enough. In the future, you may not see Manny Pacquiao again to fight in the ring. How many decades? I'm so happy of what I have done in boxing. I contribute a record in boxing also, and to make boxing in the top, especially bring honor to my country, the Filipino people. And I'm so proud to be a Filipino and thankful to all the fans all over the world. May the Lord keep you safe always, especially this pandemic. Thank you to all of you.
The final bell may have rung on Pacquiao's boxing career, but for the fighter from General Santos City, another arena beckoned. One where punches weren't physical, but the stakes were just as high. In 2021, Manny announced his candidacy for the presidency of the Philippines. This was the culmination of his journey from street vendor to global superstar to public servant. His campaign was built on themes of anti-corruption, poverty alleviation, and national pride. Manny promised to fight for the people who had been left behind by the system, just as he had once fought his way out of poverty. But the road to presidency was anything but easy. Manny faced stiff competition from seasoned politicians with deep pockets and powerful allies. His campaign was also marred by political infighting and criticisms about his lack of experience in governance. Despite these challenges, Manny approached his campaign with the same determination and grit that had defined his boxing career. Behind the scenes, the real battle was in the late-night study sessions. What few people knew was that Manny was spending 4 hours every night with private tutors, desperately trying to understand legislative procedures and economic policies. A former aide revealed that Manny would often stay up until 3 a.m. reading briefing documents, struggling with the technical language. His determination was remarkable. He would have his staff explain concepts repeatedly until he understood them, often recording the sessions to review later. The presidential campaign of 2021 revealed even deeper challenges. While the public saw a confident candidate talking about anti-corruption and poverty alleviation, behind closed doors, Manny was fighting a different kind of battle. His campaign team was split between experienced political operators who wanted him to play traditional politics and loyalists who believed in his sincere but perhaps naive approach to governance. The most painful moment came during the presidential debates. Despite months of preparation, Manny struggled with complex policy questions. A camera caught him during a break, hands shaking as he reviewed his notes. A rare glimpse of vulnerability from the fighting champion. Yet even as his former allies abandoned him and political power brokers dismissed his chances, Manny refused to back down. Financial records would later reveal that Manny spent nearly $40 million of his personal fortune on the campaign. Unlike the boxing ring, where skill and determination could change the outcome, politics proved to be a different kind of fight. When he ultimately lost the election, he took the defeat with characteristic grace, telling supporters, "I've been knocked down before, but I always get back up." This wasn't just campaign rhetoric. It was the philosophy that had defined his journey from poverty to worldwide fame, and now to the complex arena of Philippine politics. Whether he won or lost, Manny Pacquiao remained true to the fighting spirit that had carried him from the streets of General Santos City to the highest levels of global sports and national leadership. What fans didn't see was the brutal toll that Pacquiao's unprecedented 8-division conquest took on his body. Dr. Margaret Goodman, former chairperson of the Nevada State Athletic Commission's Medical Advisory Board, revealed that Manny's weight fluctuations were far more dangerous than anyone realized. Moving up through 8 weight classes isn't just about adding muscle, she explained. It's about forcing your organs, bones, and neurological system to constantly adapt. The human body isn't designed for that kind of transformation. The truth about his training camps was equally shocking. According to strength and conditioning coach Justin Fortune, Manny would regularly lose and gain up to 25 pounds in a matter of weeks. He would sometimes train with dangerously low body fat percentages, pushing his metabolism to extremes that worried his medical team. His dedication to making weight was so intense that he would run in sauna suits even when his doctors advised against it. By his late 30s, the damage had become evident behind closed doors. After fights, Manny would spend days unable to turn his neck properly. His hands, the tools of his trade, would be so swollen that he couldn't button his own shirt. Yet he kept this private, maintaining his warrior image in public. His longtime cutman, Miguel Diaz, noted that Manny's recovery time between rounds grew significantly longer in his later fights, though few noticed this subtle change. Perhaps most concerning were the signs of potential neurological impact. Those close to Manny noticed his speech occasionally becoming slightly slurred after intense sparring sessions, though it would return to normal after rest. His wife Jin Key revealed in a private interview that Manny sometimes had trouble remembering recent conversations, especially in the weeks following fights. But the most startling revelation came from his personal physician, Dr. Ramos, words that perhaps best sum up the true price of Manny's incredible journey. What Manny did shouldn't have been possible. Moving from 106 pounds to welterweight while maintaining his speed, it defied medical logic. But that achievement came with a price that only time will reveal.